Okay, so it's redemption time on my sunflower shoots, uncovering them and finding them all full of mold. So I'm going to do the process here and just show you some of the to avoid that again in the future, and I'll refer back to some of the problems I had previously. So if you recall, I just actually, the mix I had some trays prepped already, and generally I thought, A, that the soil was holding too much water, holding it too well, and B, I had overwatered the soil. So what I did is the trays I had already prepped, I mixed them all together to spread the moisture around a bit better. I added some perlite, and I've let this mix set out for a couple of days. And now I'm ready to prep my tray and then sow my sunnies. So what I'm going to do, like this mix is not dry, but it's not quite moist enough to be sown or to be prepped in a tray. And you want just enough moisture in the soil so it kind of sticks together when you're prepping in the tray. So you've got a nice solid mixture down there. And this one's close, but not quite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little water, and then I'll just sort of mix it around a little bit, just to get a bit more moisture in there. When you get a soil mix like this, it's often quite dry, and so you definitely need to have some moisture just to actually prep it properly. If it's too dry, the soil kind of won't even bind to itself. So that ends up just making it really problematic for getting the soil into the trays properly. You need to keep in mind that you've only got about an inch of soil, and your crop has about 8 to 10 days of growth. So you actually need to really do a really good job of prepping your soil, because the littlest thing can make a really big difference in that very short lifespan. So just going to add a bit more. So this mix is actually looking pretty good to me. You'll recall, you may recall, in my last with my last sowing, what I did is I placed my growing tray into the watering tray there and let it soak up a lot of water. And that was definitely a mistake with this soil, because it just held onto the water way too tightly. So this one, all I'm going to do is I've added some moisture here. It's a pretty good mix. And now we're going to fill in our tray here. So on a home scale, I would recommend doing this outside. But it's snowing and it's cold outside right now, and having one of those really lazy days, and so I'm going to do stuff inside. So one of the keys that I've talked about before is when you're prepping tray in a soil, or soil in a tray, you actually want way more soil on there than the tray can hold. And that way when you're pressing it in, it's going to get in and fill all the spaces. Now normally when we talk about soil, one thing you don't want is a compacted soil, but realistically this is a type of soil that can't really compact that much unless there's too much water in there, which is not the case. I got this all here. Take some of this off. So what I do is I build up the soil, and then I basically scoop the excess off the top. And outside I would just sort of scoop this onto a big table or onto the ground and sort it out later. I'm trying to be somewhat civilized with this one. So what I'm looking at is having my tray really full and really level. I don't want any dips, and I don't want any bumps either. That's just going to affect seeding and water retention. Okay, so get rid of that. Yeah, so I've got my soil prepped here. There's just a little bit of moisture in there that we stuck in there already. So now I'm going to do two things. I'm going to put a little bit of water on top here. So I'm going to give it a little bit of watering, so I've got a nice moist soil to start with. Okay, I'm not going to overdo that. And then I'm going to sow my seeds on top of that. So I'm doing 250 milliliters of sunflower seed. These ones I soaked for 3 hours. I meant to soak them for 2 hours, and I just did other things for a while, so 3 hours it is. Should not make any difference whatsoever. I gave the seeds a good rinse after soaking, and now I'm going to just simply spread them out on top of the soil. All fairly simple stuff here. So even though I've measured the seed out, I find even when I measure it out, sometimes I sow it and it looks too light or too heavy, so I'm always keeping an eye on that. Looking for really good distribution so you don't have clumps of seed or empty spaces. Both of them can cause problems, either too much competition or not a good use of soil space. So just a simple sowing there, and then I'm going to give it a little more water here just to get a bit of moisture onto that seed. So now I know, and then I'm lifting up my tray to feel that it's about as heavy as I want it, so there's a good amount of moisture in there. So my tray is ready here, and then it's going to go right into my growing system here. So from there, we're covering it up. So I'm doing this right away. We're not pre-germinating that seed for a couple of days, getting it sowed very, very quickly, and then we're putting our weight on top. As I've talked about before, I'm currently using 30 pounds on top, getting very good results with that. One of the reasons is it helps even uneven sized seed. And remembering, like, what this weight is doing is really keeping that seed in contact with the soil to make sure there's good germination. So with this batch, when I uncover it in about 4 days, I'm hoping I don't uncover it to a moldy mess. Part of me is like, even that little bit of watering might have been a bit much. So we'll see. I'm not really stressed out about it. It's just a matter, once again, of getting to know the soil. It may mean that I add more vermiculite to this mix. It might be that I actually try another mix, but I'm feeling a little more confident in this mix here. I'll be sure to keep my airflow a little better by keeping the window open and more airflow in here. And what I might do is halfway through this cycle is take a look to see if I'm seeing any mold. So I don't advocate as routine using hydrogen peroxide to control mold, because all that is a Band-Aid. You need to avoid it in the first place. But I don't want to lose this batch of sunflower. I want to eat it. And so because I've had that recent problem, I will take a look. If I do see some issues, I'll do a spray of hydrogen peroxide to control anything. And then what I will do is I'll uncover the tray a little bit early. So, usually I'm waiting for a sunflower to get about yay big, really have some stem and really see the cotyledons trying to push up. But if it looks like there's going to be mold, I'll uncover it a little bit early while there's still just a little bit of stem on there, and that'll get airflow in there a lot quicker, and that'll reduce the risk of mold. So that's a few key issues to remember, and especially important if you're doing 50 or 100 or 200 trays of this crop, is to keep these water and airflow things in mind. And yeah, if it is an issue, you can check halfway through the germination stage to give it some hydrogen peroxide if you need to, and then uncovering it a little early is going to avoid any issues. Hopefully, the stuff we've done by changing our soil mix and reducing the water content is going to address those issues, and I don't have to think about it again. Okay, so that's it.